Enough is enough, and it's time for a change.
Hey, yo.
My life, my money, my legacy.
Welcome everybody to a special edition of Tuesday edition of Wrestling Never Sleeps podcast. I'm here with my very, very handsome co-host Adam Anthony James Martin, the straight shoot with a suit. And of course, I'm the host with the most, your boy Jared Never Sleeps. So we were just talking before, we were texting back and forth. NXT is reportedly moving to Tuesday nights immediately after WrestleMania. And what do you think about a potential move that would end the Wednesday Night War with AEW?
Well, to be honest, man, I don't think it was really a war to begin with. I think a lot of people take that word and blow it way out of context between the two companies and brands.
I got to put in air quotes because it wasn't much of a war.
Yeah, it wasn't a war. And it's not because, one was kicking the other's ass so bad. It was just the fact that it's two completely different products. You have sports entertainment, a WWF/WWE brand that has been established for so long now, since I can remember. It's totally different than what we get with AEW when you do actually tune in and watch it. For me, we use the reference as a car crash.
Yeah.
It's really entertaining.
Yeah.
Does it have to make sense? Not necessarily for people to tune in. And again, I think because there's so many guys coming from like that indie hardcore fan base, like all that talent over there is basically, they have their fan base is what I'm trying to say. And they're so loyal to them no matter what they do on that show. It doesn't really have to make sense, like I was saying, but it's so entertaining still because you can really never predict on really what's going to happen on that show.
Yeah, now that you say it, that's kind of the irony of being a wrestling fan, because what I see online is there's AEW people and there's WWE people, and they're constantly clashing and saying what's better, what's worse. And the WWE people are saying nothing makes sense on AEW side, and the AEW people are saying nothing makes sense on the WWE side. And everyone's right. Like the product isn't great right now. Like I was talking to some friends today in my group chat, and we were kind of saying like Raw wasn't terrible last night. And it's just funny, like we're not saying it's great. Like the bar is set so low for wrestling that you have to kind of just really appreciate it for what it is. But it's like, it's not really great. But I would agree. I think that this move is really great for everybody. There was no reason for the companies to really cannibalize each other, I think. And then I think it's a nice way to fill that deadpan of Tuesdays where you can watch wrestling like basically every night of the week now.
Yeah, we were talking before the show, and like we pretty much do that anyway. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners and people out there that follow the sports entertainment business and everything like that, all the tabloids and all the dirt sheets and everything like that, all the podcasts. You're pretty much listening, watching, breathing, eating, sleeping, wrestling 7 days a week anyway. And again, going back to the whole war question, with it not being an actual war, I don't think it's going to divide any. It's not going to, discourage anyone from, watching both products now. And, instead of channel flipping, I don't think that was really, there probably was a few people out there that were doing that, watching both products and brands. But with NXT being so boring, they probably went with a car crash.
That's how I felt.
So it's not like one's going to really now gain a lot of fans and one's going to, they're not going to really top out now, I don't think, because the two nights are now broken up, or the two shows are broken up on two different nights. I think what's going to happen is the numbers are going to stay the same until both products can, really establish themselves and really put themselves in a position to, define really what they're doing and really what they are and what they really want to be for the fans, rather than, getting what we're getting. So I don't think the split's a bad thing, but I don't think it's a great thing for either brand either. It's going to be less of a conversation now because there is no head-to-head, so to speak. So maybe people aren't going to be as inclined to tune on Tuesdays for NXT if they're watching AEW and just say, hey, what's the competition doing? Or
right.
vice versa. So
I mean, I think that I feel like if anything that I really feel like NXT is going to greatly benefit from moving to Tuesday, only because NXT was really good about maybe 2 years ago.
Sorry.
Really good. They always put on great pay-per-views, great matches. The talent was good. They had the guys like Tommaso Ciampa at the top of the card, Johnny Gargano, Undisputed Era was up there. Even the tag team division with like the Viking Raiders and those guys and sorry, what are they called now? The War Raiders. They were originally the War Raiders. Yeah, so it was really great.
Seen them in forever.
Yeah, well, one's injured now, and then they just didn't. Once they got to the main roster, they were just finished.
Yeah,
but it seemed like NXT quality declined more and more as they had to go up against the new upstart company that you're just probably not going to be able to beat. Like you said, like we always like to talk about, it's like watching a car crash. You can watch wrestling or you can watch a car crash, and most people are going to be intrigued by the shiny new car crash that happens every Wednesday. So the fact that NXT moving to Tuesdays and they can really just breathe and not have to worry about going head to head or beating anyone in ratings, and they can really just build their talent and help their developmental system. Let's call it what it is. It's a developmental system. Give them the opportunity to get it more experience, kind of mature as a product. I think we're going to see it's time to develop. So I think we're going to see just a better quality product out of NXT because we've seen that in the past.
Do you think the real downfall of NXT really started when they, like you're saying, when they did move to USA and they took the 1 hour time slot, moved it to a full 2 hour program, like we see with Dynamite? Do you think it was better when it was really on the network? And do you think it was a big mistake for them initially to get off the network and do what they're doing now?
Yeah, absolutely. And I understand why Vince McMahon wanted to do it. It's a power move to kind of just try to get the new guys off, like any billionaire, that's how they work, right? Like Facebook bought Instagram because they saw there was a new person in town. So let's get him out of there. So, yeah, I think it's just really the best move for them because, like I said, NXT was just red hot when they first popped up on the scene, and then just to add the 2 hours and to kind of just go up against the Orange Cassidys and the Chris Jerichos and everything that's going on over there, it's kind of hard to compete at the end of the day. And I want to see NXT succeed only because I love wrestling, and I think that we need those type of promotions because wrestling is more sports entertainment now, especially United States. And I feel like NXT was the wrestling brand. So I want them to succeed, but I've always found myself on Wednesdays just flipping over to AEW just because, like, even though I don't like the wrestling, it's just way more entertaining. Like the entertainment value is there. So it's like I have to admit it's an entertaining show, even though I don't necessarily like the product. You know what I mean?
Right. No, for sure. And do you think that Peacock might have had anything to do with the move?
That is a very good question.
The report? When did they reportedly, suggest that WWE is moving NXT from Wednesdays to Tuesdays? After WrestleMania?
After WrestleMania. So let's see, I'm looking at the report. So it would be Tuesday night as early as April 13th. So basically like a month and a half from now.
Peacock's already in effect, or are they taking over? Peacock's already there?
I think Fastlane's going to be the first. That'll be the first pay-per-view on Peacock.
So Peacock's already set in place, just hasn't really officially taken over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And WrestleMania will be on Peacock this year as well.
Right. Do you think
WrestleMania went from like $50 to $5? Isn't that crazy?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Deflation.
It kind of really devalues the product in a sense. You know what I mean? It used to be this much for a pay-per-view. And now we've introduced a WWE network and it's this much. But now we're moving to Peacock and we're giving you, which is supposed to be a more athletic product, a more modern version of what they were doing back then.
Yeah.
For now $5.
For $5, you can watch a whole WrestleMania and all of them in the past.
Devaluing, everything that everyone was doing back in the day, I think in my opinion. But that's off topic. That's for a shoot Sunday or something like that.
Right.
But going back to my original question, do you feel that Peacock had a lot to do with the move and saying, hey, screw this Wednesday stuff. Let's move to Tuesdays. Let's take our own night. Let's start off with a bang.
It might be more so USA. I mean, maybe UFC is just very unhappy with the fact that NXT is getting killed every single week against AEW. So they're like,
involved with.
I think Peacock is like the streaming platform for NBC.
Okay, that's right.
So I think maybe like doesn't really have much to do with Peacock, but more necessarily to do with USA Network, right?
That's right. So
sorry, USA Network, yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, at NBC, I meant USA Network, but yeah, I think USA Network is kind of like, all right, this has been maybe like a year and a half or whatever, and they don't really have to do it. So, but I'm also curious to know what would actually replace NXT in that time slot.
Yeah.
Like another Law and Order or something, or
Law and Order. That's for no.
And NBC is sorry, I keep on calling NBC. USA is basically Law and Order in wrestling. That's and once a year the Westminster Dog Show.
Yeah, once a year the Westminster Dog Show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the terrier usually wins.
Yeah, right.
Yorkshire Terrier, but no, NXT Tuesdays, I can get used to that. Has a better ring to it. When you say it, I think, NXT on Tuesdays, NXT on Wednesdays, it just sounds a lot better, I think. And, again, taking that pressure off of all the talent, all the people in the back working so hard to try and develop a product that people can enjoy on Wednesday nights, and moving it to Tuesdays will, again, take that pressure off. I feel not feeling like, people are talking constantly about ratings or demographic or all that.
Yeah, that's tough.
They're just not going out there and focusing on their own product. They're more worried about something else and something they really can't control. And kind of like you were saying, right before AEW, it's kind of came along. It's kind of like Triple H and the NXT brand kind of said, okay, for some reason we have to change a formula that's doing really, 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 really well.
Yeah.
It's not broken, but now there's just something else that people are digging. And maybe what they didn't know at the time was that that's a local hardcore fan base.
Yeah.
That fan base, no matter what you do as a WWE product, they're not going to like it. They're going to stick to their mud show, carnival, indie performance.
Yeah. Outlaw.
High flying gymnastics.
Yeah.
Trapeze, flip-de-doo.
Yeah. 140 pound. Yeah.
The car wreck. And, you can't really compare the two, and you can't really.
And like I even think like now I'm thinking back like
kind of baffles my mind, so I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, it's all good. One thing that even like think about this, and I remember this. So the Survivor Series about, I think it was 2 years ago when AEW was first forming. So remember that Survivor Series card? It was basically centered around making NXT look strong. I think like that, like Adam Cole beat Daniel Bryan.
They did look strong.
Yeah, I think NXT won the whole Survivor Series against Raw and SmackDown.
Yes, they
so
did.
Look at how it just affected the booking. You took your developmental and essentially made them a third brand and beat all your other talent just to beat AEW, and it still didn't work. It didn't, it just didn't work. It didn't add up. So I think they just kind of like, this wasn't a war in the first place, but let's just lose this battle and wave the white flag and actually focus on building our talent over on Tuesday nights. I really like that move for them.
No, it's a great move. And again, going back to the whole battle thing, for me personally, it was never a battle. Again, you have two completely different types of product. Yeah, sure, they all compete in a squared circle or wrestling ring. But again, you can't look at one show and look at the other one and say this is the same thing, because again, it's two completely different things. And it's not even comparable to, when WCW was, involving the more realism, the more real life storylines, the real name usage rather than the cartoon characters that the new generation of WWF times were utilizing and performing and putting out there for their audience.
Yeah.
You can't really compare the two situations, because at least they were still doing wrestling. You know what I mean? It was still sport. It was sports entertainment, but it was still wrestling.
And even like they're not going to be able to compete because one is legit developmental, And then the other show has like Sting on it and Chris Jericho and, some names that people might know. They have Jim Ross's voice. Jim Ross is the biggest announcer in wrestling history.
Yes.
So just to kind of, you're kind of doing your developmental disservice by even having to put them against a show with bigger stars on it and a show that people are willing to just do anything, just make it like as ridiculous as possible. Like you really can't. There's no way to compete with that.
Jericho, falling in a pool full of orange juice.
Yeah. They have
You know,
weddings like the Best Man, and you have Sting, and you have Darby Allin coming.
I can't even keep up.
Yeah.
It makes me tired just trying to think of it, but it's going to be fun tomorrow night. We are going to be doing our first AEW Dynamite review.
Yes.
Recording. We're switching from NXT, which we did last week, and all the way through that episode and that show. Again, we apologize. If anyone's offended by it, but it was a really boring show. And again, that's not because of the talent on the show, the guys and the women that compete on that show and put on that show as performers do their best with what they're given with. And unfortunately, the writing staff, the creative for NXT right now, isn't giving them the best opportunity to put on the best product or show, every Wednesday night. So we're gonna switch it up a little bit. We're gonna go to AEW. I want to check out this car crash a little bit more. I watched it when it first came out for about maybe the first full year.
Yeah.
And then I got really, really turned off personally when Jericho started to really switch.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Like
I know exactly what you're talking about.
More one of the boys, I think.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You can say that, I've heard people say this before about him. You must be a Cornette fan or whatever it may be, right? It's true.
Yeah.
You watch him when he first came into AEW, he was hot fire. He was putting people in those seats. People were wanting to see him, and now you look at him.
He's a shell of himself.
He's having fun with it. Sorry, but he just looks like a shell of himself from even a year ago when he first came into AEW. Forget the stuff that he did in WWE. Forget what he did in ECW. Forget what he did in WCW. Forget what he did in Smoky Mountain. He even a year ago in the same company, you can just see the difference, right? It's not just my eyes. I know I'm blind in one eye, but it's not just me, right?
When Chris Jericho first entered AEW, he was in high-profile heavyweight title feuds. He had a brand new finish, which was cool. It's got the MMA type of, what the Judas effect, the back elbow, fucking awesome. It's an awesome finish for the new Chris Jericho, because the Lion Salt, as you get older, is just not going to look as good. And I don't know the last time he put anyone away with the Walls of Jericho. When's the last time anyone tapped out of the Walls of Jericho? Can't even remember.
I don't remember the last time he actually he performed the Walls of Jericho, because when I remember the Walls of Jericho, he's on his one knee, he's crouched down.
The Lion Tamer one was that. I feel like he should have kept that one. It looks a little bit more real. The guy's neck would always be like turned and stuff.
Contorted, but the Walls of Jericho, you're right. It was just a Boston Crab.
Yeah, it was a Boston Crab. But he changed his look. He had the leather pants now. He had the entrance, obviously, they got over. He had the little bit of the bubbly, and that got over. And he was just a red hot heel when the Inner Circle first got put together. And even he was kind of elevating Sammy Guevara, someone I never heard about, but now I know about because he was right next to Jericho. But as time went on and on, he just kind of got sillier and sillier and sillier. And like you said, became one of the AEW boys. Even like the first couple of nights when he did commentary, he was pretty good. And then toward the end, he was just screaming, and it was really annoying and obnoxious. And it was like kind of, you could only hear him. You couldn't even pay attention to what was going on in the match. So I would definitely agree that like the new production of Chris Jericho is just not the same as what we were expecting at the very beginning of of this AEW project.
And again, maybe NXT and like Triple H and those guys are so confident still in guys like the Undisputed Era, who have basically ran NXT for so long.
But now they broke them up, and it's like
maybe that's what they felt they needed to do.
A little premature.
Switch it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Create a little bit more of suspense or a little bit more questions. Get people's eyes over to going, hey, why'd they break up this remarkable group up?
Yeah.
When they did it and how they did it, and we watched it last week. It was brutal. That segment with
Yeah.
Roddy and Adam Cole, they could have done a lot better job. But again, moving to tomorrow night,
Mhm.
it's gonna be really awesome. And reportedly NXT moving to Tuesdays, gonna be really awesome. Either
Yeah.
way, as a wrestling fan, I'm sure you agree.
The fans
Listeners, let
win.
us know what you think. But double thumbs up, because it just means another night of wrestling. It's either me watching, repeat YouTube untold stories, or
Yeah.
me watching, documentaries that I've watched over and over again, of course, on the WWE network.
Yeah.
And then, just little random and hidden gems that you find on YouTube and stuff like that. Very cool to watch. Rather than going through all those again, I can now watch NXT on Tuesday nights.
Yeah. And one thing I also want to say is I think what people are also overlooking is the reason why some people will probably watch AEW is because of the internet wrestling community. There's so many different opinions about what wrestling should be now, because now once you have the internet, everyone can have like their opinion and voice and what it should be. There is like, and I think I fit into this crowd. I basically watch AEW because there's a Jim Cornette podcast where I want to hear what Jim Cornette says about this show. I don't really necessarily care about that show. I care about how entertaining a guy like Jim Cornette is going to make how he discusses what he's watching as a wrestling professional for the past 50 years. And
Exactly.
so there's that element too. Like we don't really watch it for the entertainment. We watch it for the commentary on the entertainment.
The
reaction of it. Yeah. And I think a lot of people fit. Would you consider that yourself too, or?
For me, if I don't watch something, Cornette personally is my go-to.
Yeah.
Because I can validate his review. I know he's gonna review it properly.
Mhm.
Whether I know his opinion is so old school.
Yeah.
I respect that, because that is what wrestling is.
Yeah.
And today it's now sports entertainment, so it's not even comparable again. For him to see something that he helped build to a certain standard, sell out crowds all over the US.
Yeah.
No matter where they went, managing the best talent, getting them over, growing the company, and he just watching it now crumble in front of him. I kind of feel bad for him. I think we were talking about this another night.
Yeah, we were talking about the other day. Basically,
I
when I
kind of feel sad for a guy like that, because a guy that's worked so hard and has just lived pro wrestling and dedicated everything he's done to the sport.
It's like
wrestling.
It's like having like a comparing like let's say like a world famous chef, and he sees like a McDonald's, and he's saying like, "What have you done to the hamburger? It's not supposed to be just made in a minute and just thrown out of a paper bag in a window. You're not supposed to like it's supposed to be, mwah." So that's what he's seeing in this industry, and I really kind of understood where he's coming from when you sent me that documentary a couple nights ago. It was like the history of professional wrestling in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I saw the crowds and I saw the way they work, because I've never watched wrestling from like 1980 something or 1970 something.
When they're especially the part about Gorgeous George.
And yeah, Gorgeous George, man, that was the first time me seeing Gorgeous George, and the way he worked and the reaction of the crowd, and everyone was like into it. And it's like, man, this is really so much different than 2021 wrestling. You'll never have people that are that over. When you realize, yeah,
you're watching that, right? You watched a lot less happen. It might have seemed a little bit boring for you, but the way that their personas and their characters, help evolve what they were doing in the ring and elevated what they were doing in the ring, they utilized that to their maximum potential. They didn't have to rely on doing crazy things like bringing in exploding barbed wire matches for a world championship.
There's no reason for that. Yeah,
constantly seeing a flip or a dive or a something in every single match to the
and
floor.
It's not even within context to what's going on. It's like you see the guys waiting for the dive and stuff, or then waiting for the next move. It's not within context. Yeah.
Exactly. He's not a receiver for the NFL.
Right.
He should not be waiting there for a catch.
Right.
But here we are. We see it and we expect it every single match. When you're watching that documentary, did you see anybody do a moonsault, let alone go to the top rope or
no? And the thing is, everything was so much more believable and tight, and even the facial expressions were there, and the timing was there with the crowd. It was just way different. Even 30 something years later, it looked really good to me.
Yeah. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you watched it actually, and I got a lot more for you just to catch up on stuff that you might have not have watched in the past, like you said. And like I said, instead of going back to NXT on Tuesdays, instead of me, going through and rewatching all of those things that are really really fun to watch,
Yeah.
like the Jim Cornette omnibus.
Yes.
He goes through literally, you know, I think it's 3 years that he's with the NWA, and basically side by side with Condrey and beautiful Bobby Eaton, and the Midnight Express and stuff like that, and the feud with the Rock and Roll. But he also goes into the books. And he talks about paydays and like crowd and attendance.
Yeah.
And city to city, the routes that they take, and why they're involved in this story, and who was booking at the time, and working with creative, and just is really, really exciting. And we were talking, before going on the show about, stuff that I used to do. So that kind of just made me think of that. And just, you mentioned the YouTube video, but instead of watching all that stuff, getting back on track, because I like to go off track once in a while. But NXT on Tuesdays, man, I'm excited because, again, it probably will open the door for me to continuously watch AEW.
Yeah.
I know I'm gonna be reviewing it tomorrow. I'm going to give it the one test.
You said the one test?
This is like the pilot run for them again. This is like a reboot pilot for them, because I haven't not watched it in quite some time. I keep them on tabs, reliable sources for results and, honest opinions about the show. But that doesn't cut the mustard.
Right.
So tomorrow we're going to watch it.
I'm looking at the card right now. Tomorrow's card. We have Shaquille O'Neal and Jade Cargill versus Cody Rhodes and Red Velvet. We have
we're talking about a wrestling program, right?
We have yes. Then we have Tully Blanchard and FTR. Tully Blanchard and FTR versus Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler versus Jurassic Express, Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, and Marco Stunt in a six-man tag match. Then we have Paul the Big Show White, interviewed by Tony Schiavone. The AEW Eliminator Tournament finale. Dark Order, Evil Uno, Stu Grayson, Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Alan 5. Angels versus Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, Mark Quinn, Angelico, and Jack Evans in a 10-man tag. That's a fucking huge match. That's a huge match. Huge, not huge as in like it's important. Huge as in there's a lot of people in it.
Old school Survivor Series.
Yeah, it's a giant. Yeah, it's like basically a Royal Rumble. Then you have Chris Jericho and MJF with a press conference, and then Dark Order's 10 versus Matt Caster in a ladder match qualifier. So I expect Shaq to get a lot of Shaq's gonna be trending worldwide. He's gonna be on Inside the NBA, and they're gonna have memes on him and stuff. So he'll get some more Bunny. Huh. Yeah, right. He's a bigger Bad Bunny.
And figuratively, maybe.
Yeah. So that is tomorrow's card, so it should be interesting. Speaking of AEW, I watched that Rio versus Serena Deeb match because someone recommended to me. Really, really great match. Great match, surprisingly. I don't know too much about Serena Deeb. All I know of her, it was to be like a trainer, but she was really in the straight edge society, and she shaved her head to me. And I'm gonna go watch tonight. I'm gonna watch that Ray Phoenix versus Lance Archer because I've heard like crazy great reviews about that on AEW. From AEW marks. So should be a lot of wrestling this week. But anything else before we wrap up?
Nothing that I can think of, Jared.
Yeah.
Other than just the news and getting ready for the recap and the review tomorrow. Again, our first time doing AEW should be exciting for the listeners to hear our take on a completely different brand and product.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that, to set eyes on this again. It's been a while, like I said. So we're gonna do this tomorrow, and talk about it afterwards and share with everyone what we think and how we saw the event take place.
Yes, it should be good. So look out for that episode of Wrestling Never Sleeps podcast on Thursday morning. We record immediately after the show. So thanks for watching this. If you like our content, make sure you subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you get notifications on all new content that we'll be dropping, because we're going to be dropping a lot of stuff. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Twitter is at WNS_TV, And then Facebook and Instagram is Facebook or Instagram.com/WrestlingNeverSleeps. From my co-host, Adam, I am Jared Never Sleeps. Thanks for watching. And of course, it's still real to me, damn it. Good night.